Welcome to NeverTheLess podcast with Bidemi Mark-Mordi, a show dedicated to organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Today, you would learn how to discover your essence and live more powerfully.
Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. This is a show with Pastor Bidemi Mark-Mordi, and my name is Victor Ogungbe. The last episode was mind-blowing. You would agree that some marvelous insights were shared. And this episode promises to be yet another insightful one. So I think it's a good time for you to just sit back, relax, get ready to share, get ready to invite your friends to join you if you are listening right now. And next voice you hear is the voice of Pastor Bidemi.
Hi everyone, welcome to the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Our series is the Rehab series. We're taking a look at brokenness and what men need to do or ought to do, or even what men do to bring themselves to the place of healing and wholeness. In our last episode, we looked at what brokenness was. We looked at the types of brokenness, and we looked in depth on why those types of brokenness occur. One of the things that I remembered saying was that there are three types of brokenness: innate brokenness, imposed brokenness, and intentional brokenness. And we did try to distinguish them or differentiate them. And then we'll also looked at acknowledging brokenness, why it is essential for leaders to acknowledge that they are broken so that they can find healing. We said that brokenness was not peculiar to a person. So just because you have brokenness doesn't mean that you are a bad person. We said that if all of us even come defective with innate brokenness, we are all broken. And then we said that intentional brokenness is how we force ourselves to grow by recognizing that there is always headroom, and no matter what it is that we've gone through or how far we've gone, if we would intentionally do the work, we'll find ourselves growing some more. So Victor, just still reflecting on that episode in the last 1 week, what do you think?
Sincerely, I think that the takeaway that we took from the last time, how we must get into reflective thinking, it's mind-blowing for me.
Yes.
I mean, it tells me that for everything that we do, we must always return, ask ourselves. I mean, take an audit, if you like, of our lives and say, okay, what can I do better? How can I become a better version of myself? I'm even more excited about this episode. How we'll talk about healing places. Healing places is the focus for this episode, and really, I'm already excited in advance. And so, I want to ask. We know that there are a lot of places people go to, to heal. There are a lot of things that people do.
Yes.
So there's a place, if you like, maybe there's a place and there's a doing, there's a what and there's a where to these things. So let's focus on the where first.
Okay.
So where are some of the places that people go to find healing?
Okay, so thank you for asking. Like he said, today's episode is healing places. And when we talk about healing places, we want to look at the many places people go to in an attempt to heal brokenness. Because the thing about brokenness, Victor, is whether you acknowledge it or not, on the day when it is mature enough, it will force itself out. So, you find that people who go through traumatic experiences, how many years that they've been managing themselves, all of a sudden you just heard something like they had a psychotic breakdown, and you're wondering what happened. That's so random. No, it's not random. What had happened is that because they had not dealt with the wounding, and maybe, I talked about calcification the last time. When they come into the place where they are exposed to sensitive material that reminds them of that had happened, that trauma or whatever, they find themselves, it becomes a trigger and they go crazy.
Wow.
But the thing is that 80% of the time, we like for our healing to be swift and to be fast. And because that's what we want, people always look for the cheapest, fastest, quickest, least invasive way to heal. But from experience, rehab is invasive. So when you choose that, I want to do it, it has to be minimally invasive, it creates more problems than the initial problem. So I'll begin answering your question by telling you the story of a pastor's wife that I heard many years ago. And no, it's not gossip. I heard her husband tell this story.
I see.
So this lady was abused as a young child. For many years, I think people she trusted abused her.
I see.
And years later, she meets her husband, they get married, and they have children, they have a wonderful ministry. Everything seems to be going well. Not realizing that because she didn't go through the healing process of healing herself of the trauma that abuse as a child had done, she started to find validation in sex in all the kinds of wrong places.
Wow.
And so before we knew what was happening, by the time her husband found out what was happening, she had had multiple affairs.
Wow.
And all of that is not because she had a bad marriage per se. She was just looking for something to numb the pain of abuse as a child. Yes, an attempt to heal herself as a child. And the reason why that is so is simple. It was never brought to the fore.
I see.
So the first thing about healing is that's why we talked about acknowledgement in the last episode.
Yes.
It must be brought to the fore. But when we talk about healing places, you find that, a lot of us go to all kinds of places, but the wrong place. Wow. So imagine someone with a God-fearing husband at home who loves her, adores her, going from motel to motel to motel. And I think when this thing broke, her husband finally found out because one of the people now decided to use the information and perhaps compromising videos or pictures to blackmail the family. So her husband said, no, I'm not going to allow you to blackmail us. I'm not going to put my wife away, but I'm not going to let this. We're not going to medicate a bad situation, a brokenness with another brokenness.
True.
That was why he spoke up. And that started the journey of healing for this woman. And as I'm talking to you, this has been maybe close to 10 years. When you see her, the restoration that she's gone through and the massive things she's doing for kingdom now, you'll be amazed that it is the same person. All of that to say two things. That number one, you can't be secretive about your brokenness.
I see.
If you're secretive about your brokenness, it will break you some more. Wow. So for instance, a child goes in school, secondary school, and tells his friends that, he's not happy at home, that his parents are always fighting, and it looks like they are going to divorce. And then another child says, that's so, this is what I take to be happy. Wow. Slips him a pill or something, some substance. And truly, when this child takes it, this child is now it's psychedelic now. So the child is in another realm. And so he doesn't feel the pain of everything that he was facing. So that becomes a crutch. Every time he feels unsafe at home, every time he's sad at home, he runs to that substance. He runs to that substance. Now, here's the sad part. That substance brings the person to dependence. So after a while, if he was taking, let's say if he was weed, if he was taking a blunt before, that blunt is not enough. He now needs to. And then the thing just keeps going. And then before you know it, he's a full-blown addict who is no longer in control of his life.
Amazing.
What brought him here? He was trying to medicate a pain, legitimate pain.
True.
Because what it is that was painful for him, that he was trying to deal with, was real.
True. Was there.
It was there. It wasn't by any stretch of imagination phantom. It was real. But his choice of healing, or what he was introduced to get healing, became a bigger mess than the mess he was in.
Amazing.
It is how people get into addictions. I have checked it. I have spoken to a few people in addiction, and I have read a lot extensively on these matters. I have never seen someone who woke up and just decided that he will become an addict.
True.
It's always something is not right. Something is broken in their lives, and they are trying to fix that thing by forgetting it. That's why they find themselves as in substance abuse. Now, those are the ones that are a lot more visible that we see. Because when someone becomes a substance abuser and he becomes a full-blown addict, that one is not hidden. We all know about it. But there's some other way that people medicate these things. Work. Most leaders are medicating brokenness with work. Every time they are working. You know, I just saw a movie yesterday. It's titled Riding the Bus with My Sister. And Riding the Bus with My Sister is an account of two young ladies, you know, sisters. The older one and the younger sister. The younger sister was a special needs child. You know, so the older sister became responsible for the younger sister very early. You know, the mother would say she's different, but we're not going to hide her. So you have to always take care of her. You also want to always make sure she's okay. You have to take her with you when you're going out with your friends. And she was embarrassed because this younger sister could be very wild and uncouth and many things. So sometimes, you know, she'll be coming back from school, and this younger sister and her mom are at the bus stop to receive her. And when the younger sister sees her older sister come out of the bus, she would run to go and hug her. She knows all her classmates are watching her. So what does she do? She does this. This is as children. You know, fast forward, let's say 20, 25 years. They've now grown up and she has a career in photography. But she was in a relationship and she loved the person loved her. But just because she knew that if she married him, the conversation about children would come up. And she never told anybody in her new life that she had a sister that was like that. She actually gave up her relationship just to hide the fact that she had a sister who was special needs. Wow. And the fear that she might have that kind of child as well was what made her just give up. The point I'm making is, you know, and she was a workaholic. Her boyfriend then would say to her, oh, let's go out. You know, they would be at they would have gone out for dinner and she'll be on her phone working. She'll be on her laptop working. Why? Because she was using work to medicate that brokenness. Do you see?
I see.
You know, so overworking is one way we medicate brokenness. So if you see me overworking, it may just be it.
Okay. I don't think so.
Then we have unhealthy relationships. When a man actually knows or a woman knows that, you know, this person is bad for me.
Yet.
You know, have you ever wondered why a lot of you young ladies who have been abused or have seen their parents' marriages break down, have you ever wondered why they are always attracted to the bad boy phenomenon? They just, of all the young men on the street, they will take the one who is a cultist. That's the one that they want, because there is something about the badness that they are trying to use to just medicate. I couldn't respond when my father did this, so in rebellion, I'm going to be responding in this way.
Wow.
Unhealthy relationships. Some of us eat to deal with brokenness. Just keep eating and just keep eating and just keep eating. You know, before you know it, you go from size 8 to size 12 to size 16 to size 21. You know, very soon there's no size for you. But it is not that something is wrong with you. Well, something is wrong with you. But the point is, you're not eating because you are hungry. You're trying to eat your pain away. And the more you eat, the more the pain amplifies. Because when you went from size 12 to size 16, in your mind, like in a short while or overnight, when you look at the mirror and you see yourself, another pain is added to what you are medicating.
Absolutely.
And you go back to the same food.
Absolutely.
Can you see it?
I do.
So, people go to different places to look for healing. And that's what our problem is.
Wow.
So it's not that we don't, most of us know, because brokenness cannot hide. Most of us know that when we are broken, we know when something is wrong. But whether we are informed enough to look for the right healing process is what this episode is about.
It amazes me that all the things you have said, that things are right before us.
Yes.
You know, and I'm glad that this is coming up, because it's helping us see that we need to look in the right places.
Yes.
So we'll go on a short break, and when we get back, we would begin to have more conversation on healing places. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In a world filled with many fears and discouragement, life often becomes a burden. For those who know the way, life is just simple. Do not worry, you're not alone on this life's journey, as Bidemi Mark-Mordi shares powerful insights and principles from her everyday work and life experiences in her book, NeverTheLess. NeverTheLess is a book designed to encourage and equip you to face life with courage, hope, and determination. Get a copy of NeverTheLess and other books written by Bidemi Mark-Mordi, like The Wisdom of the Seed, Honor, The Theology of Work, and so much more from a bookstore nearby, or call 080-905-63555 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimarkmordi.com to place your order. I guarantee you will make it, nevertheless.
Welcome back. It's still the NeverTheLess show. And just before we went on break, we started talking about healing places. And Pastor Bidemi has done an exciting and amazing job of just showing us some places that people go by default to find healing.
Yes.
And these places are not the right place to go. So having said all that, it means that there is a right place to go and there's the right thing to do. Pastor B, what are those things?
Okay, so before we even move on to the right place to go, I'd like to just, even though it isn't asked, but it's in my mind to answer why people go to the wrong places. People go to the wrong places because they are less tasking.
I see.
People go to the wrong places because they are cheaper. People go to the wrong places because they are promised no contest. They're just told, you don't need to do much. It's not as demanding.
Less demanding.
It's less demanding. So all of it again is because we are trying to flee pain.
I see.
That's why we go to those places. Do you understand
I
it?
do.
So people end up, because of pain, they end up gossips. Because of pain, they end up spendthrifts. That's people who just spend carelessly.
I see.
Because they're trying to medicate something. But the reason why the wrong place is the most attractive place for most of us is because it doesn't demand as much from us. So we think as the right place would demand from us. Which brings me to the answer to the question you asked.
Okay.
Where is the right place to go? If you'd like to read for me, I want you to read for me, I think it's Ezekiel 34, verse number 16.
Okay, it says, I will seek what was lost and bring back what was driven away. Bind up the broken and strengthen what was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong and feed them in judgment.
Yes. So let me first of all say that Ezekiel 34, and you can read it in other translations of the Bible, of the scriptures. Ezekiel 34 is a scripture of hope.
Amazing.
It's also a scripture of cutting out the fluff. So it says something as I will burn the fat. The fat really, even doctors tell us and nutritionists tell us that we don't need the fat of anything. They don't want me eating my tozo anymore and my steak, everything has to be lean now. But that fatty part has a special peculiar taste in it that we like.
Of course, yes.
Who likes fatty suya? That's this person. But we know it's not exactly, healthy and beneficial to the body. Do you understand that? So when you look at Ezekiel 34, it quickly says to you there is hope because God says, I will heal the wounded places and take care of the broken places. So God is saying, if you come to me, you will find this healing. If you come to me, you will find this healing. So hope is held up in God. And if we want to actually find lasting healing, God is the place to go. He says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So rest is what we're looking for. That's why we're running from one nightclub to one place, to one place, to one place. But if we just come to God, the thing about, again, this healing thing is that whether we want to hide it or we want to talk about it, God already knows. because the Bible says he's all-knowing.
True.
So the way remember I told you from a recovering many things, God is always my first stop. There were times that I would run to people, in my past. There were times that, I would, I've never been an ice cream. I don't medicate with food and stuff like that. But there were times that, I would want to latch onto the wrong thing because I'm trying to find reprieve for my wounds and for my brokenness. But since I found out that God knows, because another reason why we don't go to people is because of secrecy. We don't want people to find out about us. Now, here's the thing that I want to say about, just to address secrecy and move on. There is not one thing that happens in the world to you and to you and to you that nobody else knows about. Sin, it is very rare that someone can sin all by themselves.
True.
There is always a witness to sin. There is always a witness to brokenness. Do you understand it? So if there is always a witness to brokenness, all this thing that you are calling secret, it's only a secret for as long as the other party has not found the benefit for telling.
True.
The day they find the advantage for telling on you, they will tell on you. But let's even assume that there is this deep bond between you and your sinner, and because of that they would never tell. God was already in the equation. When you were sinning, he saw you. When you were being broken, he saw you. When you were being wounded, he was there with you. So this thing of, I don't want to tell people about it because I don't want people to preach about me. That's the reason why there are a ton of broken people on the pews in church and nobody is talking about it. Because when you ask them, they'll say, I'm blessed and highly favored. But they are duct taped all around. They are all broken into a million pieces and is a duct tape around them. We can see, because we can see all the things that are seeping and dripping out of them. But they tell us we are blessed and highly favored because they want to hide it. But the thing is, like I said, when the day comes, you can't hide these things forever. When the day comes and they want to be heard, there's an expression I use, pain demands to be heard. Pain will ask for an audience on the day that it is not convenient for you.
I see. And that's even more dangerous.
Yes, that's where you find someone right in the middle of the banquet hall is when they begin to break down. And you're wondering, he came in wearing his suit just now. What's happening here? Because all the patching, something and the last thing that triggers that particular breakdown is usually very minimal. But it's a buildup of many things for many years, and then this day just goes, booms, the dams give way, and then nobody, things fall apart, the center can no longer hold. Do you understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
So God is the place to go.
God is the place to go.
Yes.
I just want to re-echo what you said last. God
is the
place to go. There's nowhere else.
Nowhere
else to go. But Mama, let me draw you back a little. At the beginning, you did mention that. So let me use the illustration you used specifically. You spoke about maybe a young child in school who talks about his parents or his broken home or kind of, and then his friend introduces him to drugs.
Yes.
Now, using that as a context, it means that the kind of people you have around you might determine
where you go for your healing. Yes.
So how do, I know it might look like out of context for today's focus, but how do people ensure that the people around them are right so that their decisions when it comes to healing would also be correct?
Now, if I say the answer that occurs to me readily, it will sound cliche, but that's the answer. Pray for the right kind of surround around you. Pray for the right kind of surround. That's number one. Number two, make sure, especially in the cases where we're talking about children now, make sure that anything can be discussed at home. Anything can be discussed at home. Because the moment we have these environments where there are certain topics that are off limits, then these children will go out to look for counsel. And the thing about outside counsel is 99.9% of outside counsel is bad counsel. Because even the people you're going to, to are going to be counseling you out of their own pain.
Of course, which might not be.
Do you understand
might not be
it?
the same.
So in the case of this child, if this child had just let his parents perhaps feel or know what he was going through, the parents may be broken, but they don't want their child to be broken too. Do you understand that? So when we have an environment where there are no sacred cows, where we can have conversations and not be penalized for the conversations that we have, then people will be able to own up to the things that are wrong with them, and then they will be able to find help in the right quarters. Because if someone loves you, is the one that takes hold of you to go and look for help, the chances are higher that they will take you to the right place. Do you understand it? Now, also, society drives how we solicit for help. Society drives how we solicit for help. So, let's say 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have conversations about depression openly.
True.
But we've gotten to a place where it is great that we're having those conversations as openly as we're having them. But it has also now created an albatross of its own. So that when someone is having a bad day, they say, I'm depressed. When someone is in the middle of 5 bad minutes, they say, I'm depressed. So it becomes a label. It looks like the more this label is used, the more it looks like you know what's up. So there is also conversation that should not be mentioned amongst the children of God. Am I saying don't talk about depression? No, please. Talk about depression. But by all means, talk about it in the right quarters. Which brings me to the institutions, i.e. the church. The church, the reason again why conversations about depression and mental illness were never had in families of faith is because the church never acknowledged it. We chalked everything to demonization. Yes, there is a place for demonization, but if we would even have the conversation and be able to understand that someone can be feeling bad and not know how they are feeling.
True.
Sometimes the first step to healing is just to hear them out. True. It's not because you have the answer. True. It is the unburdening gives them the opportunity to cast out some of the toxins that are disturbing them. And then another thing is we have read the Bible so much that we don't read anything else. Because some of the things that bring us to these things, somebody could have had a traumatic experience many years before and they did well with it over time. But they get in their 50s, especially for women, they get in their 50s and they begin to find out that, they are perimenopausal or they are menopausal. And those, because the hormones are no longer what they used to be, this begin to trigger certain kinds of reactions and thought patterns and stuff like that. But who are we going to tell? So you must have a safe place where you talk. Because we're talking about healing. Your first course is go to God. If you know your way to God, that's where you should go. Because that's the best place to go to. If you don't know the way to God, talk to people who love you. If you have, over the course of your life, have contracted and nurtured the right relationships, then you will say to someone, guys, I don't know how I'm feeling, but I know I'm feeling something. I just find myself waking up at 3 a.m. and I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying. Someone may be able to say to you, it looks like you are depressed. And you're like, but why am I depressed? And then maybe in the course of asking the right questions, we can get to the answer that we are looking for. Then please, I'm also not that person who says don't talk to professionals. Please talk to professionals. Because the church is losing some of its finest and its best because we say we're people of faith, we believe in God, and because of that, it must never be said that in our midst, someone is depressed. Take a poll. In the last 5 years, how many pastors have taken their own lives? And if you would have sat down and gone through the process and recognized that these things sometimes are a chemical imbalance in the life of man. Sometimes it's something that happened over time. Do you understand it? And begin to try to just bring healing, even if it's just bring healing by the word of God. You'll find that if people know that they have a support system, if they know they have the right support system, they would not quickly arrive at the place of my life is not worth living.
True.
Do you understand it? My life is not worth living. So because of that, go to God, be open about your conversations, be vulnerable, and then have the right support system. That's some of the things that I think you need to do.
For me, it's amazing how that we've shared all of these things. I'm particularly excited at the fact that you've been able to highlight actual steps, that people can take. I'm sure that you have something to say more like to wrap this particular episode up.
Yes. For instance, when you go to the book of Hosea, in Hosea chapter 5, I saw something, I was reading it earlier today. And what I saw was that when we go to the wrong place, there is no healing there.
There's no healing there.
There's no healing there. I have the account of someone who went to the wrong place, and because they didn't know how to deal with all of the things, they decided to just medicate her. And she said to me that after a while being on the medication, what she realized was the reason why she went to this place for help was because she was always sad. So she was feeling something. That was why she went. And she said after months of being on the medication, what she realized was that she was no longer feeling. She wasn't sad. She wasn't happy. She was just like now a blank sheet of paper. Nothing. She had no emotions, whatsoever. And she decided that at least when I was sad, I knew that I was feeling something. Now I'm not feeling anything. And that can be a good thing.
True.
So wherever you go for healing, that begins to let you not feel anything. You are not angry. You are not happy. You are not sad. You are not bitter. You are not responding to anything. You are not aggravated. Something is also fundamentally wrong, because what has happened is that you have become docile. And you need to retrace yourselves for healing. Do you understand it? People will say, does prayer work? Prayer works.
True.
But so are all the other things I've talked about.
True.
So it's not just pray and sit down. Pray, talk to someone, see a specialist or a professional if need be.
Yes.
They have the the professional capacity, because they've been trained to deal with the kinds of issue that we're talking about. All that I'm saying is, do not look for a quick fix, because quick fixes never give us the lasting solution that we are looking for. We suppose, therefore, that there is lasting solution when we find ourselves in brokenness. I have said, and I will say it again, brokenness can trigger a whole lot of many other things that a person shouldn't go through. But if you are honest with yourself, and you don't find the need to cover up what it is that you are feeling, the odds are and the chances are higher that you'll find the solution or the healing that it is that you are seeking.
Thank you so much for those tools, that I like to call them tools, that you've put in our hands. In the next episode, we will be delving into some other parts of this conversation on brokenness, particularly in the rehab series. We look forward to the next episode, and we hope that you'll be part of. Please do well to share with your friends. Do well to encourage your friends to check on the YouTube channel, and I'm sure that it will bless them in a little way. Pastor B.
Yes, thank you so much for joining the episode again today. This has been the rehab series in the NeverTheLess show, a show for organic leaders and leaderpreneurs. Remember that you have been optimized by God to be the best that you can and to be a solution to your generation. It is the reason why you must focus and do the work of bringing yourself to healing, so that you can be who exactly God has called you to be. So till next time when we see you, remember that I say it all the time. If you discover why you are, you will live a powerful life. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to NeverTheLess. For more information and resources, call 080-90563-555 or send an email to bidemi@bidemimark.com. Don't forget, discovering your purpose helps you live more powerfully.